but grant me just the same. I'm not entirely.
Most people are familiar with this woman from 90s thriller films. Ashley Judd captivated audiences with her mix of vulnerability and strength in blockbusters like Double Jeopardy and Kiss the Girls, becoming one of Hollywood's most bankable female leads. Yet by the mid-2000s, her starring roles became increasingly scarce. Today, I would like to recall the bright career of Ashley Judd and understand why one of Hollywood's most promising stars seemed to fade from the spotlight. Ashley Judd was born Ashley Tyler Simonella on April 19, 1968, in Los Angeles, California, into a family already familiar with fame. Her mother Naomi and half-sister Winona would later form the successful country music duo, the Judds. Despite this proximity to entertainment, Ashley initially chose a different path, studying at the University of Kentucky and considering a career in humanitarian work. Her earliest screen appearances were minor, a small role on Star Trek: The Next Generation in 1991, and a recurring part on the NBC drama Sisters from 1991 to 1994. These early television credits, while solid for a newcomer, gave little indication of the star she would soon become. Everything changed with her first leading role in the independent film Ruby in Paradise, 1993. Playing a young woman fleeing an abusive relationship to start a new life in Florida, Judd delivered a performance of remarkable depth and nuance. The film won the Grand Jury Prize at the Sundance Film Festival, and Judd herself received the Independent Spirit Award for Best Lead Female. Critics took notice, with Roger Ebert writing that Judd gives a performance of remarkable strength and authenticity. Despite this critical acclaim, Ruby in Paradise grossed only $1 million in limited release, reaching few mainstream viewers. Judd's transition to Hollywood came with supporting roles in the ensemble drama Smoke and the action thriller Heat, both released in 1995. While not the lead, her presence alongside veterans like Harvey Keitel and Robert De Niro demonstrated her growing industry cachet. Then came A Time to Kill, 1996, the John Grisham adaptation that grossed $152 million worldwide and showcased Judd in a supporting role that nonetheless left a significant impression on audiences. Studio executives began to see her potential as a leading lady who could carry a film. The breakthrough that transformed Judd into a genuine star was undoubtedly Kiss the Girls, 1997. Cast opposite Morgan Freeman, she played Dr. Kate McTiernan, a kidnapping victim who escapes and helps track down a serial predator. The film grossed $74 million on a $27 million budget, proving Judd could lead a commercially successful thriller. Her performance, combining physical toughness with psychological vulnerability, established what would become her signature screen persona. Paramount immediately began developing projects specifically for her. This momentum accelerated with Double Jeopardy, 1999, a thriller that leveraged Judd's now established image as an intelligent woman fighting against injustice. The premise: a woman framed for her husband's murder who discovers he faked his death, struck a chord with audiences. Opening at #1 at the box office, the film ultimately grossed $177 million worldwide against a modest $70 million budget, making it Judd's highest-grossing film as a lead. Critics were mixed on the legal implausibility of the plot, but unanimously praised Judd's committed performance. The early 2000s marked Judd's commercial peak, with leading roles in films spanning multiple genres. Where the Heart Is, 2000, demonstrated her appeal in more heartfelt material, while Someone Like You, 2001, showcased her comedic timing. High Crimes, 2002, reunited her with Morgan Freeman in another legal thriller, grossing a respectable $64 million worldwide. Studios viewed her as versatile talent who could reliably open mid-budget films across different categories. During this period, Judd commanded a salary of approximately $4.5 million per film, placing her among Hollywood's highest-paid actresses. Her most critically acclaimed role came with Dee Lovely, 2004, a musical biopic about Cole Porter, in which Judd played Linda Porter opposite Kevin Kline. The performance earned her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. While the film grossed only $13.5 million against its $20 million budget, it demonstrated Judd's range beyond the thrillers that had made her famous. This period represented the zenith of her critical and commercial standing in Hollywood. The first significant misstep came with Twisted, 2004, a psychological thriller that received scathing reviews and underperformed at the box office, grossing just $40 million against its $50 million budget. The production had been troubled from the start. Director Philip Kaufman and Judd reportedly clashed over the interpretation of her character, a police officer investigating serial killings while experiencing blackouts that make her suspect her own involvement. Paramount executives insisted on reshoots to make the film more commercially viable, resulting in a final cut that satisfied neither the filmmaker's vision nor audience expectations. This disappointment was followed by Bug, 2006, a psychological horror film directed by William Friedkin. While the film received positive reviews for its unflinching portrayal of paranoia and Judd's fearless performance, it grossed only $7.5 million and further distanced her from the mainstream audience that had embraced her earlier work. Increasingly, the types of mid-budget adult thrillers and dramas that had been Judd's bread and butter were becoming harder for studios to justify in an industry increasingly focused on franchises and global appeal. A particularly costly misstep came with Crossing Over, 2009, an ensemble drama about immigration that was intended to be a prestige project. Production was plagued by difficulties, including the Weinstein Company's decision to cut several scenes featuring Judd's character after test screenings. The film ultimately limped into limited release, grossing only $455,000 domestically, and marked what many industry observers identified as the definitive end of Judd's period as a reliable box office draw. Several compounding factors contributed to the cooling of Judd's career. Hollywood's notorious aging bias toward women was certainly in play. While male stars often continued receiving leading roles into their 50s and beyond, Judd found the number of compelling opportunities diminishing as she entered her late 30s. In a 2006 interview with Marie Claire, she noted, "There's a very narrow definition of what constitutes a viable female lead, and I've never quite fit that mold. The industry's shift toward comic book adaptations and franchises, targeted primarily at younger audiences, further reduced the market for the types of films that had made Judd a star." Later revelations would suggest another factor at work behind the scenes. In 2017, as part of the Father Me Too movement, Judd became one of the first actresses to publicly accuse producer Harvey Weinstein of sexual harassment. She further alleged that after she rejected his advances in the late 1990s, he actively worked to damage her career, including dissuading director Peter Jackson from considering her for a role in the Lord of the Rings franchise. Jackson later confirmed that Weinstein's company Miramax had indeed discouraged him from working with Judd, describing her as difficult. This blacklisting potentially cost her a role in what became one of the most successful film franchises of all time. Judd's choices also reflected a deliberate pivot away from Hollywood's center. Increasingly vocal about humanitarian causes, she became a global ambassador for youth AIDS in 2004 and began spending significant time on international relief work. In 2010, she enrolled at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, eventually earning a master's degree in public administration. Her activism increasingly took precedence over acting, with Judd explaining in interviews that she found humanitarian work more meaningful than Hollywood fame. This shift was neither a full retirement nor a rejection of acting, but a reprioritization that naturally resulted in fewer film appearances. Politics briefly seemed like it might become Judd's next chapter. In 2013, she seriously considered running for the U.S. Senate seat in Kentucky against Republican incumbent Mitch McConnell. For several months, she met with potential donors and political consultants, generating significant media attention. Ultimately, she decided against the run, citing personal reasons. While her political aspirations didn't materialize into a candidacy, they further cemented her image as someone whose interests extended well beyond Hollywood. The first significant comeback attempt came with the ABC television series Missing in 2012, in which Judd starred as a former CIA agent searching for her kidnapped son across Europe. The show received mixed reviews but praise for Judd's performance, with Entertainment Weekly noting she brings genuine emotional depth to a character that otherwise might seem purely mechanical. Despite this, ABC canceled the series after one season due to ratings that started strong at 10.6 million viewers for the premiere, but declined to 6.5 million by the finale, below the network's threshold for renewal. Judd returned to film with a supporting role in Olympus Has Fallen, 2013, an action thriller starring Gerard Butler that performed surprisingly well, grossing $170 million worldwide against a $70 million budget. This led to a reprisal of her role as First Lady Margaret Asher in the 2016 sequel, London Has Fallen, which grossed an even more impressive $205 million worldwide. While these films put Judd back in commercially successful projects, they represented a shift from the leading roles that had defined her peak period. Another attempted comeback came with Divergent, 2014, and its sequels, where Judd played Natalie Pryor, the mother of the protagonist. The first film grossed $288 million worldwide, but Judd's role was limited, and her character was written out of the story early in the franchise. Still, participation in a successful young adult franchise kept her visible to a new generation of viewers who might not have been familiar with her earlier work. Television continued to offer Judd opportunities for reinvention. She took a supporting role in the revival of Twin Peaks, 2017, directed by David Lynch, which drew critical acclaim. In 2018, she appeared in the second season of Berlin Station, a spy thriller series for Epix. While neither project returned her to the mainstream prominence of her peak years, they demonstrated her willingness to work with distinctive filmmakers and in the increasingly prestigious medium of television. Throughout these comeback attempts, Judd's activism continued to define much of her public persona. In October 2015, she shared her story of being sexually harassed by a powerful film studio executive at the Women's Media Center Awards, though she didn't name Weinstein at that time. 2 years later, she became one of the first prominent actresses to go on record for the New York Times expose that finally broke the silence around Weinstein's decades of abuse. This courage established her as a key figure in the Dawn Me Too movement and led to her speech at the first Women's March in Washington, which was viewed by millions. Today, Ashley Judd works selectively in film and television while continuing her humanitarian efforts. Her most recent notable acting role came in the film A Dog's Way Home, 2019, which grossed a respectable $80 million worldwide. She divides her time between the United States and humanitarian projects abroad, particularly in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where she suffered a near-fatal accident in 2021 that left her leg shattered in multiple places. Her recovery from this injury, which she documented on social media, demonstrated the same resilience that characterized her most memorable screen performances. Judd also continues her advocacy work as a UN Goodwill Ambassador, focusing on issues of gender equality and human trafficking. In recent interviews, she has expressed openness to acting projects that align with her values, but makes clear that activism remains her priority. No confirmed future film or television projects have been announced as of late 2024, though she occasionally appears at industry events and film festivals. Ashley Judd's legacy in Hollywood is that of an actress who brought intelligence and emotional depth to mainstream thrillers when few such roles existed for women, followed by a courageous second act as an activist who helped spark a long overdue reckoning in the entertainment industry. The trajectory of her career cannot be understood without acknowledging both her undeniable talents and the industry forces, including systemic sexism and targeted retaliation, that worked against her continued success as a leading lady. If the right director were to craft a complex, age-appropriate leading role that acknowledged the wisdom and resilience she now embodies, Judd could certainly reclaim her position as one of Hollywood's most compelling performers, though on her own terms, not Hollywood's.